Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Caden Kubler and welcome to Caden's Corner. College football is so back and so are the Oregon Ducks. Oregon, along with a few other teams that used to be in the Pac-12, have now shifted over into the Big Ten, and I'm expecting a big-time splash from this Dan Lanning coach squad. Coming into this year, they're the preseason number 3 ranked team in the country, but I personally believe they're the best in the nation. Now, last year, Oregon had one of the best offenses in the entire country. They ultimately fell short in the Pac-12 championship, and if they would have won, they would have earned a bid to the college football playoffs. But they've rebuilt on the offensive side of the ball after losing Bo Nix in the first round of the draft. Dan Lanning has a special culture and this defense is back, and all signs are pointing to Oregon being the best team in the country this year. Now, with Oregon's shift to the Big Ten, I personally believe that Dan Lanning is the best coach in this conference. He's truly built a special culture in Oregon, and there's 2 marquee moments that stand out to me and why I think this dude is such a stud. Last year in specific, before the Colorado game, the Buffaloes were 3-0 heading into Eugene for a big-time game. A video was released by ESPN before the game showing Dan Lanning addressing his team, and in this video he called out Colorado and said they're playing for clicks while we're playing for wins. They would go on to absolutely boat race the Buffaloes, and this is one of the most savage moments I've seen. Now, he had another great moment, and it was in the offseason. When Nick Saban left Alabama, this job became one of the most prestigious in all of college football. When this job became available, there was a lot of speculation that guys like potentially James Franklin from Penn State, Dan Lanning from Oregon, different coaches from big-time programs might throw their hat into the ring. But Lanning released a video of him addressing his team, saying that he's going nowhere. And those are only 2 moments that we get to see. Imagine the culture that he's building every single day with his team. I'm all in on Dan Lanning, and I think this Oregon team is in for a huge year. As I mentioned, they had one of the best offenses in all of college football last year, and it was led by their quarterback, Bo Nix. Well, he's gone. He was taken in the first round of the draft, but they reloaded in a big-time way, grabbing Dillon Gabriel in the transfer portal, the former Oklahoma quarterback. Now, Gabriel is entering his 6th year of college football, and he's very experienced, and he's one of the best in the nation. Now, Gabriel is very accurate. He completed nearly 70% of his passes last year, and he's also a great decision maker. He's never had a season in college football where he's thrown for more than 7 picks. And last year, he led this high-flying Oklahoma offense with 3,600 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and only 6 interceptions. When you look at how efficient Bo Nix was for this team last year, I think Dillon Gabriel is the perfect replacement. As of right now, before week 1, Dillon Gabriel is the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy, and he's my pick to win the award. Now, we mentioned the talent. He has the accuracy, he has the anticipation, he has the decision making, but he also is one of the best receiving corps in the country. And we'll start with Mr. Tez Johnson. This dude is an absolute dog. Last year, he lit up college football, racking up more than 1,100 receiving yards and scoring 10 touchdowns. He was easily Nix's favorite target last year, and I see him being the same for Dillon Gabriel. Now, in the portal, they added another dog for this wide receiving corps in Evan Stewart, a former wide receiver from Texas A&M. Stewart's going into his junior year, and he was one of the most sought-after guys in the portal this offseason. Coming out of high school, he was a 5-star recruit and the #1 receiver in the class of 2022. And now you pair him next to Tez Johnson, this is going to be an absolute nightmare for defenses. This offensive line is also elite. It's littered with NFL draft prospects, and it has 4 returning starters from last season. Now, let's not get too fixated on the offensive side of the ball with this team, because this defense is also nasty. As of right now, they have 70% of their defensive production returning from last season, and looking at the stats, they gave up the 9th fewest points per game in all of college football last year, just under 17 points a game. They gave up the 11th fewest rushing yards. I think the Ducks are going to be dominant on both sides of the football, offensively and defensively, coming into this season, and I can't wait to see this Dan Lanning coach team. For the Ducks' first year in the Big Ten, for the most part, I think their schedule's super easy. Week 1, they take on an Idaho team at home, then they face Boise State at home, 2 easy wins. Then they'll go on the road for the first time this year, taking on Oregon State, another easy win, they're 3-0. Then they'll go on the road against UCLA, no-brainer here, 4-0. Then they'll take on Michigan State at home, another no-brainer, 5-0. Now, this is where things get fun. Their biggest test of the season will come at home in Eugene against #2 Ohio State. I cannot wait for this matchup. 2 of the best teams in all of the country, 2 of the best teams in the entire Big Ten, a potential college football playoff spot on the line. And I think the home field advantage here for the Ducks is going to mean everything in this matchup. Ohio State is one of the best defenses in the country, and this is going to be a sneaky defensive game between both of these teams. But I think Oregon has the better offense here. I think they have the better quarterback, better weapons on the outside. So So give me the Ducks to pull this one out in a massive win. They're now 6-0. They have a short week where they'll go on the road at Purdue on a Friday night. I think they'll win this one. They're 7-0. Then they'll take on Illinois at home. Another easy one, no brainer, 8-0. This is going to be where things get interesting here. They're going to go on the road against a Michigan team for their only other ranked opponent they'll see the rest of the year. At this point, it'll have been 4 to 5 weeks since they had that initial bye week right after week 3, which is super early. And this is going to be a big test for them, going on the road for a true road game in the Big House, one of the best environments in all of college football. But I'm not sold on Michigan this year. They lost Jim Harbaugh. Sherrod Moore's now the head coach of this team, but they also lost J.J. McCarthy. They lost Blake Corum. And I think it's really reminiscent of when TCU lost a lot of their guys a few years ago after they made it to the national championship. Now, I don't think it'll be to that level, but I still don't think Michigan's going to pick up right where they left off as a national championship caliber team. I think this is going to be a really big test for Oregon, but I think they ultimately pull it out. They move on to 9-0 for the final 3 games of their season. They'll finish up their schedule playing Maryland at home, Wisconsin on the road, and then Washington at home. 3 easy wins. And I think they'll wrap up their schedule at an undefeated 12-0, where they'll go on and play in the Big Ten championship for a chance at that number 1 overall seed in the college football playoffs. I think one of the bigger narratives coming into this season out of the Big Ten is how great Ohio State is and can anybody beat them. How they have the explosive offense with all the playmakers on the outside. How they have just a brutal and gnarly defense. But I think as of right now, Oregon is a better team, and I think they're the best team in the Big Ten. I'm going to sit here and repeat it. Dan Lanning is also the best head coach in the Big Ten. I think right now the Oregon Ducks should be the favorite to win the title. They're so balanced. They have an amazing offense. I'm super excited to see what Dillon Gabriel can do this season, distributing to Tez Johnson and Evan Stewart. They have an amazing offensive line. They have solid tight ends. They have a great run game. And then you look at this defense that was one of the best in college football last season. They have 70% of that production returning. I think this team's going to surprise a lot of people this year, and they're going to be a true powerhouse out of the Big Ten. Give me the Oregon Ducks to win the national championship this year. I'm Caden Kubler, and that's my take.